you have to set the marks each day, each week, each month, each quarter, each year, and then you have to hit your mark. And if you're not going to hit your mark, you have to communicate in advance, hey, I'm not coming home.
And humility is really important for that connection to stay. So then they okay, well, I'll just put it on my back. I'll just get better. And then these women get better and better and their male counterpart gets more insecure. Yeah. Instead of coming along the way and being like, babe, you're fucking badass. I'm struggling to keep up with you. Here's what I think I can do this week. Like, help me help us.
Conscious couples, business partners, and individuals, welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and relationship expertise to help you consistently cultivate the most magnificent relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges. We'll help you have the courage to be your authentic self, communicate effectively, and constructively resolve conflict.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching, speaking, podcasting, and hosting live events with conscious couples all over the world, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. Today we have episode 210. How often does your partner disappoint you? Whoa.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, that's what most of these episodes are. Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind everyone why we're here. I'm trying to do this more in everything I do. We are here for one reason and one reason only, to improve your intimate relationship. If you don't want to improve your intimate relationship, you can click off now because we're going to be useless to you. If you do, you're in the right place. We're going to improve your intimate relationship from the inside out. Mm-hmm. So, sweetheart, ladies first, what is your intention?
My intention for our listeners today is to not only hammer down like how often you're feeling that disappointment as a result of your partner, but most importantly, from my perspective, why are we getting disappointed in the first place?
Okay, so disappointment compounds. All things do. You and I have a couple that just went through a challenging situation. We'll keep the couple anonymous always. Also, shout out to our new Relationship Talks coaching clients. We know you're watching.
Congrats.
We just onboarded two new married couple. They've been together for 20 years and they're going strong. So congratulations. Mm-hmm. All right, so
let's get started and share definition. I think that would be really helpful prior to me sharing what I observed with a client of mine that I think you and I both feel is a really important example for this disappointment aspect. So what would you say disappointment is? We all know what it feels like. It's not feeling good, right? You don't feel good. Yeah. But what is your definition, or how would you define being disappointed?
So all things are created twice, once in the mind and then once in reality. If you're a proactive human being, it's a big if.
Fair.
So expectations versus reality. So if I expect Emilia to be here or down by 8 and she's down at 8:05, she has disappointed me, quote unquote, unconsciously and subconsciously. That's a bad example because that doesn't really bother me much. But there are a lot of, one example is I was super excited to see Avatar 3. And I was disappointed that we might miss the beginning. As a matter of fact, I think we did miss a little bit of the beginning. Or maybe that was Wicked for Good.
That was Wicked for Good.
Yeah, Wicked for Good. So we missed the whole first scene of Wicked for Good. And I was more upset about it than Emilia because I value going to the movies more than Emilia does. And so ultimately, disappointment is your expectation is here, and your partner sets that expectation consciously or unconsciously and then misses that mark, so to speak.
So my definition of disappointment would be the experience of feeling hurt or sad after, I love what you said about things being created twice, after you dream or you imagine your partner gallivanting for you and whatever it is, right? Them hitting the mark. The disappointment is what you feel after when that mark isn't hit. And that usually is grounded in sadness and hurt, right?
One thing I want to share too is if you're optimistic, you tend to believe things will go better than they do, and then you're going to experience disappointment after. What I've noticed is a lot of pessimistic people, they set the bar low in advance because they're afraid of disappointment later, which can actually have constraining effects. But this couple that we're referring to, they just had a new child. I think the child is 2 or 3 months old now, maybe only a month.
I want to say she's a month and a half now.
A month and a half.
Yeah.
And so 6 weeks old, and essentially what happened is the male counterpart in the relationship came home. There was a bunch of cars in the driveway. He was just getting home from work.
He tried to come home.
He tried to come home, and he was blocked out.
Yeah.
And we're giving the high-level version, by the way. We know you're listening. And essentially he ended up being like, okay, I'm going to text you. So he texted his partner, said, I'm not coming home yet. Let me know when the show is over, playfully. And he ended up running into his sister, and they ended up going out to reconnect because he only sees his sister once or twice a year.
Right.
And the female in the relationship was kind of left with the disappointment of, I expected you to be home and you weren't, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And she has all the responsibilities of not only the newborn, but also of sort of being the hostess for several people at once. And I think that's a good example because we've all felt that before. Like, I'll give an example. We hosted Thanksgiving, you and I, a couple years ago.
Yep.
And we did all this effort, and we, catered it with Wegmans, and I was in the kitchen.
You were the hostess of the most?
I would say that's fair. And I didn't cook the food, but I had to heat it all and prep it all.
Practically cook.
Yeah.
I mean, where's the loose definition of cook?
Didn't. Took it out of the platters, but I had to set it all up so that, like, when we sit down, it's all warm.
Yeah.
Which, for me, not interested at all.
Yeah.
And people left in like an hour and a half or 2 hours, and they were like, okay, thank you so much, we appreciate it, bye. And it's like, we had this whole lineup.
Yeah.
But again, that's why I try really hard not to put a lot of stock into things like that, because I try to control the controllables.
And one last example of a partner being disappointed by another. I was on the phone with a client of mine, this stay-at-home mom who just has a newborn. She is being in the aftermath of their communication, which was, I thought that I had communicated to you sufficiently to where you kind of knew that I was going to be home at some given time. And in that relationship talks coaching call, the partner essentially was like, yeah, I think I was a little, wasn't my best self. I should have, it would have been more helpful to communicate more explicitly or to have been even more exact in when my partner could have expected me to come home. And the reason for those expectations is so that they can be a better team at the end of the day. When you're feeling extremely disappointed by your partner or how often that same disappointment comes up, it's ultimately because what's underneath that we found in relationship talks coaching is that at the end of the day, partners want to work as a team. And if you're a conscious couple and you don't feel as though you're able to quote unquote get there with one another, it's ultimately because there's this thing that keeps happening that you guys aren't addressing directly. So one of the biggest things is the feedback loop for this. If you're feeling that disappointment from your partner, like we talked about with this couple, they didn't have a safe space to kind of create this feedback loop between one another where they're frustrated all the time with one another. And this was just the surface level frustration and disappointment with a deeper root of disappointment, which is the communication of these partners are not as effective as they need to be with now a newborn in the mix.
Yeah, and we talked about how they are still operating as their less evolved parts and their less evolved versions of themselves. So I always say I'm Alan version 3.7. I'm 37 years old. You're Emilia 3.1. When we start a family, we're going to need to upgrade to a better version of ourselves. And the male has admitted that he reverted a bit in this situation, which created this disappointment. Yeah. Underneath the reason why not to be disappointing your partner and to assess this and address this is the Jenga tower. You take one block out and the Jenga tower in this represents trust. People always say communication is the most important thing in a relationship. I think trust is underneath communication. If you think of partner A and partner B, they communicate effectively. They are constantly on the same page, the same chapter, writing the same book, the line of best-selling books in this metaphor. They're going to have a ton of trust because ultimately what is disappointment? It's, I don't think I can trust my partner to follow through on what they say. But there's two sides to this coin. On one side, it's, hey, I'll be down at 8. On the other side, it's, hey, life happens. And if I'm down at 8:05, give it a rest. And there needs to be both ends of this, right? Because you can't expect people to be perfect. However, I used this in a metaphor with you recently. In acting, I'm coaching an actor now, and there's this thing where you have to hit your mark. So they have the whole set, they have the extras going on, they have action, and every actor and actress has a mark on the floor that they have to hit. And if you don't hit your mark, you won't be in the shot. And there have been many scenes that were magnificent where it's like, you weren't even in the camera. This is a useless shot. And so I think that in a relationship, here's the metaphor. You have to set the marks each day, each week, each month, each quarter, each year, and then you have to hit your mark. And if you're not going to hit your mark, you have to communicate in advance, hey, I'm not coming home. I'm getting wasted with my sister. I'm joking. That's not what he was doing. I'm kidding. We got to have fun. But we got to get out of here soon. I got to get on a coaching call. And the thing that I wrote down is set a bar that you can actually hit and make those marks and hit those marks to the best of your ability. But I want to hear from you, because I think a lot of women, they deal with men who maybe aren't communicating effectively what their marks are, or maybe the women haven't communicated what those marks need to be in terms of what support means to you. That was our last episode. Can you share with our listeners what it's like to be constantly disappointed by your male counterpart?
I mean, the constant disappointment ends up leading to, yes, a lack of trust, but ultimately what I find is extremely common for women is they take on way more of the roles and responsibilities and the cognitive labor of the family and all the logistics that are involved with that. And what that ends up doing is overburdening them. So it overburdens them so much so that it takes away from them actually being able to focus in on their health. So for example, this female in the relationship, she has taken on not only obviously the health of their newborn, but all the household logistics as well. Yeah. And that has, even to the most basic extent, like she can barely get a shower in. And like basic hygiene, especially for a new mom, like that's incredibly important, not just for the hygienic components, but it's also like, it's such we all know taking a shower, there's nothing better. It's hydrotherapy. It's cleansing in so many different ways. And so at the smallest level, it ends up putting women in this, and don't get me wrong, women have a role to play in this, because this is where the communication of boundaries and communicating expectations and being able to trust your partner to hit those expectations. And when they don't, have a dialogue around it. But like those tiny little things, they really start to add up and compound. And then in the relationship, it starts to they start to pull away, not because they want to from their partner, but the teamwork ends up becoming less effective because there's less capacity that a woman will have to be able to contribute to hoping. And hoping gets too painful, right? Hoping that your partner is going to hit the mark, that becomes way too painful, because living in this constant state of disappointment for just something that you both want, quote unquote, which is teamwork and to be effective and to be on the same page, that hope turning into disappointment, hope turns into hurt. And when you stay in hurt for so long and then add that cognitive, psychological, emotional labor in the relationship, you become an ineffective team. And that is the opposite of what most conscious couples want to do, right? That's the opposite of what they want to be. And living in a state of disappointment, that then creates all these weird coping mechanisms and weird fights and tension in the relationship that really doesn't need to be there if we all had the courage, vulnerability, and humility to sit down and actually discuss with one another, like, what is actually going on here? For example, in a situation like that, where the partner is just trying to communicate and text back and forth, there's this optimism component that you and I have experienced in our relationship, every other relationship experiences. When you think you're going to be home, humans tend to overestimate for the most part.
I do think that's more of us thing. I think a lot of people actually they set bars that are low because of this. Not everybody. Not everyone. But if you're optimistic, this applies. If you tend to be on the realistic or pessimistic side, I like Kev is really good at hedging his bets and making sure he like leaves 3 hours early to make sure that he always makes the mark. And but he also would never shoot for what I shoot for because he tends to be more pessimistic. So,
but don't you think in the conscious couples that we've seen, one of the biggest struggles that we see is one of them is a little bit more optimistic.
Yeah.
And one of them is a little bit pessimistic, or they were optimistic.
Yeah.
And they've had to be more realistic because of the offsetting of the partner that's
That I
wildly
think is fair.
optimistic, which then builds resentment and contempt because of this disappointment.
Every intimate relationship, I believe, has someone who is more optimistic.
Yeah,
That I agree
yeah,
with. Yeah. So identify who that is for sure. To wrap up here, because I got a coaching session soon, there's two things that are happening. I heard a quote way back. If you change your expectations for appreciation, you can change your entire life. So on one side of the coin, if you do have constant expectations that are maybe imaginary in your head that aren't really realistic, you need to constantly remember what it was like in the beginning when it was even them showing up at all was great, right? But on the other side of that coin, you have standards.
Yes.
And the standards have to increase over time, not decrease. And especially with a newborn, the expectations are growing as you grow as a human being. Like your expectations of me at 37 should be higher than at 31.
Not only that, but a lot of couples won't even communicate to the level, like we're not as aware of our own standards and expectations in relationships as life then forces us to become aware of the hard way.
Which is where all the hurt is.
Right, exactly.
So when it comes to that, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think on one hand, I think what happens in relationships is people lower their standards so that they don't get disappointed constantly.
Of course, that's classic avoidance.
But that might not
doesn't
be the solution.
It doesn't address
the problem.
Nor does it help develop the skill sets that conscious couples need in order to not just, be connected and stay connected and in love and grow together, but also to be able to rise together in the goals that they're trying to achieve.
So that also, because it takes away the necessity.
Exactly.
Right? So this is something that I've noticed with my female clients, is they will lose any expectations of their male counterpart out of just self-protection of, I can't deal with any more disappointment.
Yeah.
Instead of have the courage of a check-in of listen, buddy.
Listen,
man, we need to improve.
Yeah.
And I understand, and we're doing a Relationship Talks virtual event on this week. One partner with a growth mindset and one partner with a fixed mindset. Usually whoever has the growth mindset probably tends to be more future-oriented and optimistic and probably has expectations that are building over time, not decreasing over time. And usually the fixed mindset partner is probably struggling to hit the mark because they don't know what the mark is. Maybe they fly by the seat of their pants more. That's what we've found anyway.
Yeah.
Every couple has one partner who is more future-oriented and more conscientious and more strategic. And usually the other partner feels like they're being dragged up a mountain that they don't want to climb. And then the partner that's dragging them is like, yo, can you climb, please? Right. So that's exactly.
Mush.
Yeah, mush. But to close this out, love, what is the female's take on, you've seen this with tons of your clients. They're lowering their standards instead of having the courage to check in.
A lot of that courage to check in is the fear of the emotional outburst as a result of the male counterpart taking this check-in personally and feeling like it is a character assassination and attack. And so, for example, the female counterpart that usually I'm working with will say, Emilia, I'm afraid to even talk about this because he's going to freak out. He's going to go into the I'm not doing enough for you. It will not be grounded in emotional regulation, courage, vulnerability, and at the end of the day, humility. And humility is really important for that connection to stay. So then they I'll just put it on my back. I'll just get better. And then these women get better and better and their male counterpart gets more insecure. Instead of coming along the way and being like, babe, you're fucking badass.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to keep up with you. And here's what I think I can do this week. Help me help us. That's humility.
I think 80% of all success in an intimate relationship comes down to, that's on me. I will get better.
Ownership.
Yes.
You're really great at that.
Thank you. And I do better at the ownership than the getting better part. But I do both. It needs to be both.
Yeah.
But no joke.
Fair.
Effort and intention needs to be visible and it needs to be seen.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, whoever has the bigger goals in the relationship, you have to have higher standards. And I don't just mean goals monetarily. I'm talking whoever has bigger goals for their daughter is going to have higher standards for the care of the daughter.
Exactly.
And a lot of times you both have big goals, but you don't integrate. And so that's why you have to have these check-ins. Again, the last episode we said that. This episode we're going to say that. My recommendation before we go is sit down with your partner and make sure you're on the same page, writing the same chapter of the same book. Because maybe you were a year ago, but now you have an infant. You got a dog. You got all this stuff going on. You got in-laws. You got
It's
parents.
winter. It's spring.
Right.
You know, like whatever it is, there's always gonna. I would say like at the smallest standpoint, this is a really helpful on the check-in for the week. Literally bring it into the week. What are our expectations for the week, and make it super simple. What are our 3 biggest expectations or 3 marks that we need to hit as a couple this week?
We did that last night. You and I have a whiteboard that we sit in front of, and we plan the week out, and now we have our marks.
That was so awesome.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually joking because I was late to this. Yeah, I appreciate it.
But look,
I missed the first mark, but I'm still coming. You're still here, All right,
baby.
so we got a Relationship Talks virtual event. I kind of already talked about it.
Yep. Okay, so Ellen said that it is happening this week. So this is February 19th. 2026, obviously, at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link to register the Relationship Talks event is getting on the same page about failing forward. Growth, fixed mindset. How do you navigate that in this concept?
If even a small part of you thinks that maybe your partner might have a fixed mindset in certain areas, this event will be for you. The link to register will be in the show notes. It's this Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also shout out to our new Relationship Talks coaching clients, married for 20 years, ready to reinvent themselves. We're so excited for you. Exciting. And we know you're listening. So the future is bright for those who invest in it. Sweetheart, anything you want to add before we go?
No.
All right, as always, it's not about you or me. It's about the we, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please check the show notes to connect with us and say hello on social media.
If you and your partner resonated with this episode, please leave us a 5-star review at the link in the show notes and share this with someone you love. Until next time, it's not about you or me, it's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.